Okay, so Nintendo did put out their financial earnings like we kind of talked about that they would do. Talked about that a little bit in Newswave, sent me a video, and there is a lot of stuff to go over here, but it was a very good quarter for Nintendo. Of course, this is October, November, and December, so this does cover their holiday time period there. Sometimes the beginning of January is pretty good for companies as well, so we'll have to look to that in April. At the end of April, we'll hear about how this current quarter is going. But for now, we did get a look at their holiday quarter, which is their big quarter. Like that defines most of their outlook for the entire fiscal year is based on that one quarter, that stretch of 3 months. And they did very, very well. Surprisingly well, I think, for a lot of people, considering they sold just under 11 million Switch units. In those 3 months, yes, just under 11 million Switch units. And we have a ton of information on sales for individual units for different games. I have notes all over the place here, so we're gonna go over this, put this into some context for you and everything as well. So if you enjoy the video, make sure you guys hit that like button, it helps out a lot, and make sure you subscribe down below as we push towards 400,000 subscribers. Let's jump over here, starting with the dedicated video game sales units. We can see the Switch is at 52.48 million units. That is massive. That is a big deal because remember, the Switch is not even 3 years old yet. It will be 3 at the beginning of March because it's when, of course, the Switch launched back in 2017. It didn't launch over a holiday period. It launched basically at the beginning of the year, which was an interesting strategy considering we're used to systems launching in November, even by Nintendo's own standards. So it was interesting to see it launch in March, but so far it's worked out for them. And well, in roughly a month and a week or two, we'll be actually at the 3-year mark. So still some time here. Now, there's not a lot for the Switch right now anyway in February, so I do think that this time period will be a bit slower for the Switch, but as you're seeing, the holiday period is what they rely on heavily. 52.48 million units. That does put it above the Super Nintendo, or as they have it here, the Super Family Computer, the Super Famicom. It puts it above that, which was at 49.10 million units. And then, of course, the next thing up for home console is the NES, which it should have no problem passing this year. And then, guess what's next? The Wii. That would be the last console left at 101 million units. And what's surprising is it's already more than halfway there, and we're not even at the 3-year mark. Now, because they did so well, the Switch forecast for hardware for this fiscal year has been moved to 19.5 million units. That's up from 18 million units. And the software has actually been changed to 140 million units, up from 125 million units. And we're going to move over to the software here in a minute to kind of talk about that. But yes, everything is going pretty well for the Switch right now. And it looks like analysts are even thinking that 19.5 million units is lower than it should be. It's a fairly conservative number, apparently. Consider this. Animal Crossing will still fall into this fiscal year. That's March 20th, and the fiscal year will end at the end of March. And if you're not too familiar with Animal Crossing sales, it does very, very well. In fact, we'll look a little bit at what the most recent, I guess, Animal Crossings have sold, like on the 3DS, just as an example, because that is on their top-selling units for the 3DS, and then I'll kind of put into perspective why analysts are looking at this and saying, hey, that might still be kind of conservative to just move to 19.5 million units when you have a powerhouse like Animal Crossing still falling in this fiscal year. Now, we do still have a bit of a breakdown here for the different Switch units with this past quarter. The regular Switch at 7.58 million, and then the Switch Lite at 3.24 million. That puts the overall total for hardware sold at 10.81 million. What's impressive is the Switch Lite has already sold over 5 million units, and that is basically from right around the end of September, right? It's September 20th to the end of December. So that quickly, it's already crossed 5 million units. And if you look at the overall Switch total at 52.48 million units, that should put it above the Xbox One. I say should because Microsoft stopped kind of sharing numbers. However, there are still people who have the actual number for the Xbox One. And I will tell you now, just a range, it's somewhere around, we'll say 48 and 50 million, 50.5 million. We'll say that. Just a range somewhere in there is where the Xbox One is. All right. And that, of course, means that the Switch has officially passed the Xbox One, and there's no real slowing down for the Switch. So yes, that quickly the Switch has already surpassed it, and now, like I said, it's really just looking forward to the NES and then eventually the Wii. I don't think it's too crazy to think that the Switch will end up being a 100 million unit seller, which is big for Nintendo because they wouldn't have had to have gone after what the Wii did, which was not really a gaming audience completely, right? The Switch is very much so focused on just games. Now we're moving over to software. I've brought the 3DS games up first though, because I want to show you Animal Crossing New Leaf, since that is the Animal Crossing game that a lot of people are bringing up currently for comparisons. 12.45 million units on Animal Crossing New Leaf for the 3DS, which leads us to believe that the Switch version will probably be a 10 million seller with like no problems, especially with what we're seeing currently with other franchises that have gone to the Switch from the 3DS, which we're going to talk about Pokemon here, and that is an interesting one to see how that did. In fact, while we're talking about Pokemon for a second, let's go ahead and just quickly point out Omega Ruby Sapphire at 14.26 million pieces. This is, of course, all updated as of December 31st. And then Pokemon Sun and Moon at 16.18 million, X and Y at 16.44 million. You get the idea. Pokemon sells well. Right, and this is on the 3DS. Higher install base still, technically at this time with Sun and Moon than the Switch currently. So let's go over to the Switch. This is on their Nintendo IR, their site they have set up for investors, which I will leave a link down below if you just want to go and check this stuff out yourself as well and scroll through. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is ridiculous, by the way. Basically 23 million pieces. That's almost within margin of error for that, but that is insane. You know, like that means that this is over 30 million then, right? If you include the Wii U version, that's crazy for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It keeps selling really, really well. I actually have over here, I have a chart for how each game sold like within that quarter as well. And just in this past quarter alone, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold 3.95 million. It's almost 4 million in this past quarter. It's not slowing down. It is like the evergreen of like evergreen titles. It is absolutely insane how well that does. I mean, I guess you buy a Switch, you buy Mario Kart, I guess. That's just like how it is. Even over something like Smash, it's Mario Kart, right? That's just the way it is. So, hey, maybe we will get a Mario Kart 9 and that thing will explode in sales right away as well. We'll see about all of that, or maybe they'll just keep riding Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because I mean, it's not exactly slowing down in the sales department. Smash Bros. Ultimate still number 2 at 17.68 million pieces. I don't think it's ever going to catch Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because Mario Kart 8 is just an absolute beast. But if we look at how it did this past quarter, 1.97 million, so almost 2 million. That's again pretty good. Another good evergreen title there. Super Mario Odyssey at 16.59 million units. That is awesome to see. 1.2 million actually over this past quarter. Breath of the Wild at 16.34 million units. That one actually did 1.8 million this past quarter. So all these games that have been out, right, for a while now, all of these, over a year now for any of these, right, with Smash now being over a year old. Yes, evergreen titles doing very well for Nintendo, and these are all still, if you think about it, $60 games. So yes, Nintendo is making quite a bit of revenue off of games that were even released at the system's launch, like Breath of the Wild. That's pretty crazy to think about that. Here we are with Pokemon Sword and Shield. I have some questions here because there was supposed to be a boycott for this game, and I know people are like kind of laughing and joking about how it did not turn out the way it was supposed to for people who were boycotting it. But a while ago, I talked about this and kind of how mad people were about this game coming out and everything that they heard with the National Dex. And I did bring up the question, are people still going to buy this game? Because it's Pokemon. You don't get the just over 16 million units, which we just talked about, things like X and Y and Sun and Moon, and how this is already close to outselling it. In fact, it might have by now because we're at the end of January. You don't sell that many if like the hardcore fans are not buying it. Like, I still think you need them to buy it to get to this mark because it still is right where X and Y is, right, and Sun and Moon. Sword and Shield sold tremendously well, and it will probably end up outselling all of those 3DS games we just looked at this point. Yes, so the boycott did not go too well. In fact, I look at this and say, well, it's Pokemon. That's all you can say, right? That's just the way it is here. Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee at 11.76 million. That actually didn't even sell 500,000 units over this past quarter, mostly because everyone was probably buying Sword and Shield. Right, go figure. Splatoon 2 there, almost at 10 million units. That's going to be a big deal, I think, when Splatoon 2 gets to 10 million units. And looking at the last quarter, it actually will probably get there by the next sales report that we get. It's not too far off. That'll be a big accomplishment there. Super Mario Party is an absolute travesty at this point because it's going to hit 10 million units, and they have done nothing with it in terms of updates. That tells me that they probably are just going to introduce a whole nother Mario Party game. Again, crazy to me. If we look at how it did, 1.5 million units over the core. Are you kidding me? And they haven't done anything with it. That is absolutely crazy to me. But all right, Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe at 5.85 million units, and then Luigi's Mansion 3, big deal there, 5.37 million units. That is very impressive considering it did that in what, like 2 months. Very good there for Luigi's Mansion 3. Awesome. That is, I think it's going to end up being the best-selling one, if it isn't already, or it'll be close. Yeah, so Luigi's Mansion, by the way, the franchise has only gone up in sales since it came out. That is a big deal, because that means that, yes, there will be a Luigi's Mansion 4, so awesome there for Luigi's Mansion fans like myself. Great to see. We do have some disappointments here, though. The biggest one being Super Mario Maker 2. If you've probably realized, it is not on here. It missed the cutoff, and that's because it has not actually done as well as Nintendo wanted it to. It's at just over 5 million units, and even if we look at I guess just the overall sales for this past quarter, it wasn't even really reported there either. So yes, it just did not do that well in general. I mean, if you think about it, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe has sold more than Mario Maker 2, despite Mario Maker 2 having significantly more value. It's strange. I don't know if it's the marketing or what happened here. As for some of the other titles that did not make the cutoff here that Nintendo explained in their large PDF and graph that they have, Link's Awakening at 4.19 million lifetime to date. These are all lifetime to date numbers. Astral Chain did cross 1 million units. Remember, Platinum Games said that they were happy with the sales for that game. It has eclipsed 1 million units. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 also eclipsed 1 million units. Either of those were like just over 1 million units, but still, that is a big deal for them. Fire Emblem Three Houses is at 2.58 million units. Not bad, I think, for that. And then Ring Fit Adventure, something that people were pretty curious about, crossing 2 million units, 2.17 million units. And this overall, it's just big time for Nintendo with this. The Switch is really getting after it. I mean, if you look at it, 52.48 million units in we still have another quarter, or roughly a quarter, right? We're coming up on March. That is absolutely insane. What's that, 34 months or so, I believe? That is, that's big time for Nintendo to see that happen so rapidly. I don't even think they considered the success for the Switch to be this fast, considering the deal they struck with NVIDIA to use just a stock X1. Even they were like, this might work. This could be good. Yeah, it worked pretty well for them. And I think this quarter we're in right now will be a bit slower. But then we'll go into the holidays once again, and we'll see what Nintendo has. It's going to come down to what their big holiday game is over the next, I'm going to say 2 years, because once we get into the year, 3 years from now, we'll be slowing down, and we'll probably be talking about the next Switch system, which we've seen what effect that's had on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, where people are just not buying them as much because we know the next consoles are coming for both of those brands. So yes, this holiday and the following holiday, if they have something like Breath of the Wild 2 for this holiday, and then Metroid Prime 4 for the following holiday alongside of another Pokemon game, yeah, you could see the Switch absolutely creep up to the Wii numbers, and that will be a big deal for Nintendo, but at least it will go down from what I'm seeing right now as their second best selling console no matter what, as it should pretty much blow right past the NES just with their own fiscal outlook for this year, and then of course going into next. But let me know what you guys think about this down below, with the Switch absolutely crushing it with its sales figures, the games, the system, all the way around. It was a good it was a good quarter for Nintendo, I would say, coming up on almost 11 million units sold in the span of 3 months. Thanks, guys, for watching. Make sure you like the video on the way out if you enjoyed it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you guys next time.